Hi, this is Melanie Johnson, co-owner of Elite Online Publishing, along with my other co-owner, Jen Foster.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Hey, well, we have this special webinar for you. So we have a special guest. So some of you may have wanted to write a book or have written a book. You're ready to get it published, but you're running into that hurdle of you don't have the money to have a professional publisher do it for you. And you want someone to help you so you have that awesome cover and the awesome marketing behind it and make your book a #1 bestseller. And you're stuck in this rock and a hard place. So you're thinking, I really want all that, but I don't necessarily have the funds to afford all that. So we have the perfect solution for you. We have Charmaine Hammond on today, and she is an expert at how to get sponsors and raise money for your book. Charmaine, welcome. Thanks for coming today.
Thank you. I love talking about this for authors because I think that sponsorship is really an untapped revenue stream for authors. And most authors I talk to have never heard of it, don't know how it works, and they're missing out on opportunities. So I'm so glad you brought me here to talk about it.
Great. Well, let's go ahead and get started. And Charmaine, you have some slides you're going to show us. We have some visuals, and we can learn what are we going to do if I don't have the money to publish my book professionally and so I can make sure I'm a bestseller.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let's rock and roll. We're going to talk about how sponsorship can help you increase your income, which as authors, we love that, but also your influence and your impact. You know, a lot of work goes into writing a book, as you know. I remember when I wrote my first book, I thought, oh, the book's done. The rest is all easy sailing past this point. And that is not true. The marketing of the book, the sale of the book it takes time and effort, but it's easier if you have other people in your court. And some of those people that might be in your court could be sponsors. Now, you might be wondering, what is sponsorship? How does it work? And, you know, what's in it for me as an author? And why would a sponsor even say yes? So when we think about sponsorship, it's really a collaboration. And you're going to hear me say this several times throughout this presentation, that sponsorship really relies on collaboration and really good relationships. And once you make those strong relationships, there are so many opportunities and doors that will open for you. Think as an author about how working with other businesses and brands could help you raise your dream and really get your book out to the masses and perhaps even to audiences that you never thought you can get in front of. Think about how many more lives that you could impact, how many more hands your book sits in around the world, or how many more people are listening to your book on their headphones or on their computer. And for many authors, their goal is actually to make the message of their book a movement. So there's more than the book. There's this whole life behind the book, a movement. And those things are possible when you bring in collaboration partners and businesses. And they can also help you fund this, which is really cool. So we're going to talk about relationships raising dreams. When you think about sponsorship, a lot of people have heard of it because they may have participated in a nonprofit organization or sat on a board, or some of you have sat on committees where you've had to raise funds for the schools that your children go to. And in those contexts, sponsorship is more of a philanthropy angle. What we're talking about today is sponsorship as a marketing relationship. This is where sponsors, companies, brands, so it could be the local pizza shop or the hair salon that you get your hair done at, and it could be a big brand like a Staples or a bank or an insurance company. And what they're doing is they're taking their marketing dollars and they're investing their marketing dollars in projects, because companies are seeing that to stand out as a brand, there is so many benefits to sponsoring events, projects, missions, and movements, because they have the ability to get their message and their products and services out to a lot more people who they're not necessarily connected with. And if you think about sponsorship, the dollars for sponsorship are coming right out of a company's marketing budget. So it's not philanthropy dollars or donation dollars that might go to a nonprofit. These are dollars specifically earmarked for marketing. And a company will choose to either spend that money on traditional media like magazines or TV commercials, radio commercials. Remember the days of the phone books, the yellow page ads? Or more and more, we're seeing that sponsors will look at sponsorship. So here's the really good news. There are billions of dollars available in sponsorship across North America, around the world. It's even bigger than that. And sponsorship decision makers are looking for a place to put those dollars that's going to provide them with a return on their investment. So a return on investment could look like maybe they sell some products as a result of sponsoring your book tour. Or maybe they get to reach a new audience by sponsoring bookmarks that go in your books when you sell them and give them away at book signings, and their brand is promoted on the back of your bookmark. Maybe a sponsor gets to actually build a new audience by supporting your book signing events or the media events that you're doing related to your book. So what's really critical here is the mindset. If you can remember that sponsorship is a marketing relationship, it's not a handout, which is really important distinction, because if we approach it as a handout, it feels like we're coming from this place of need and scarcity. Yeah. And when you're coming from the place of a marketing relationship, you are actually serving that sponsor. So when you have sponsorship without a relationship, it's simply a transaction. So I really want you to know as authors that the most important piece here is that relationship. And think of it like a partnership. Now let's get into the really juicy information around what kind of things could be sponsored. We're going to look at this specifically for authors today. What kind of things could be sponsored? Well, you can see on the screen that big 32-foot motorhome, Million Acts of Kindness tour. That was my book tour. And that big motorhome was sponsored for 7 weeks. The wrap that you see on the motorhome, which was about a 75% of the motorhome was wrapped, that was partially sponsored. So what I mean by that is a company provided us a massive discount. I think it was going to be about $6,000 to wrap the vehicle. And we got that for just a tiny amount. And that was through sponsorship, through what we call in-kind sponsorship. You can see on the screen that stand-up banner, and I know authors, don't you love those? Where it has your photo and your website and your book cover. We all need those to have at our book signing events and when we're speaking and touring around about our book. And I've had my banners sponsored for, probably since 2010 when my first book came out. So I've had probably 8 or 10 banners sponsored. And they get pretty costly. They're about $300 or $400 each. So imagine if you're not having to spend that money. And we also had these really cute tabletop banners. So we had the big banners, like the one you see on the middle of the screen. And then we had these little banners, one for each of my books, that would sit on a table behind the books that I was signing. Travel. So you can see there the Helijet. I love flying in helicopters. It's so fun. And my hairstylist sponsor actually lives on an island in Victoria, Vancouver Island in Canada. So I either have to take a very long ferry ride over or a 15-minute helicopter ride. So we're now working on helicopter sponsors. We haven't got there yet, but travel. So think about it as an author when you're traveling to libraries and bookstores and events to showcase your book and launch your book. You might have rental cars or flights or gas for your own vehicle. Maybe you need hotels and food while you're on the road. These are all things that can be sponsored. Isn't that cool? And then you can see in the top screen, Rebecca, my business partner, and I behind all the video equipment. I've had numerous videos sponsored. So that's the creation and filming of the video, the editing and production of the video. Same with photography, clothing, hair, and even makeup. You can see Rebecca getting all dolled up there with makeup. Social media support. We've had social media sponsors who provide that service, and our clients are getting all kinds of things covered for their book, such as media, social media, printing. What else do they get? Cash sponsorship. Some of them are even getting their speaking engagement sponsored. So we have a client who speaks at events that normally there's no speaking fee attached to it, and it's the perfect audience for her. So she found a lending company who now sponsors her whole speaking fees so that she and her books can go to events that she normally would have declined. So this has been incredible for her speaking business and her book business. On the bottom, we even had one of our sponsors on the Million Acts of Kindness tour raising money in their stores for us, for my books to go into schools across North America. There are so many opportunities. So when you think about sponsorship, think about, why would a sponsor say yes to you? There are so many reasons a sponsor would say yes. And part of what we want to make sure you do as an author is to know your value. First of all, you're an author. You've raised a dream that people think about and dream about, and most people never do, because writing a book is hard work, and it takes so much of ourselves to get that book out into the world, and it creates a lot of vulnerability, and you've achieved that by being an author. So you have huge credibility. Those of you who have written in the nonfiction world may also have expertise in a certain area. So you have expertise. You have the expertise as an author. You've all got an audience. So if you have social media, if you have a blog, some of you might be writing articles on LinkedIn. And actually, if you're not doing that, I recommend that you do that, because sponsors hang out, the decision makers hang out on LinkedIn. The companies hang out on Facebook and Twitter, but the people who write the checks and sponsorship, you're not going to be connecting with them on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. Those connections are going to happen on LinkedIn. So the more that your brand as an author can be out there on LinkedIn, the better for you. So that's another reason sponsors say yes, is that you're out there in the world sharing your message. You have an audience, and why sponsors say yes is your audience might be the exact audience that they are trying to get in front of. You might have a social following with all the different social media platforms you're on. And I just want to add here that as an author, you do not need to be on every platform. I'm not. It would exhaust me. But I am on the platforms that most of the companies that I want to partner with are working on, which is Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. Those are the 4 that I'm active on. Another reason why a sponsor might say yes to get behind your book in some way is the connections you have. So outside of your social media, think about the groups that you belong to. Are you in any author groups or writing guilds or writing clubs? Do you belong to a local chamber of commerce? For some of you that are in a specific industry like coaching or education or fitness, do you belong to an association of people in that specific industry? Your connections are highly valuable to sponsors. Many of you are doing media because of your book. And so media is really powerful, because media, for a company to buy media opportunities such as commercials, or put banner ads in media, it's very, very costly. And when you as an author can tell the story of the sponsor on media, you have given them thousands and thousands of dollars of return on investment. The other value I think that authors bring that's very unique from other entrepreneurs is that you have various ways to integrate a sponsor into being connected with an audience. So for example, as an author, if you're doing book signings, if you're doing events where you're providing a short presentation, maybe talking about your book and doing Q&A, you have a way that you can recognize sponsors right there in front of that audience. Through those banners, through your marketing initiatives, through social media, through your handouts, through some of the giveaways that you're providing to people who come to your event. And sponsors really like that. What we're hearing from more and more companies is that they're looking at sponsorship, whether it's cash, where they give you money, or in kind, where they give you those products or services at no cost or at a deep discount. They're looking for ways to really be connected. So they don't just want to have a logo stuck on a handout or stuck on a banner or a PowerPoint slide. That's kind of a given. We've got to do that anyways, but they don't see that as huge value. But one of our clients had a sponsor pay $3,500 to do a door prize at her event. Her event had about 65 people, but they were the perfect audience for this financial lending company. And he paid $3,500 to be able to do a draw, which was a really great gift that he provided. He got 2 minutes on the stage to talk about his company and to do the draw. And then he sponsored also at his own expense a bit of a mix and mingle. So he sponsored beverages and food at the end of the event. So you can imagine for this author, that was a huge win. She generated some cash. She had the sponsor promoting her book and products to his audience, his company's audience, and together they were able to really serve the people that showed up at this event. If you have a podcast, some of you have radio shows, these are things that sponsors see as high value. Any events that you're speaking at are seen as high value. And your extended network. These are people that go beyond the associations that you belong to and beyond your social media. This could be your email list. It could be people who have bought your book before. So there are many, many reasons why sponsors will say yes to you. And that's one of the important next takeaways for all of you, is to look at, what do I have of value? Why would a sponsor say yes to me and my book and my projects related to my book? Why would they say yes? So there's 3 places to begin as an author. The first thing we have to do is we have to look at the value we bring. What are all the assets that we bring to the table? That's your blog, your social media, your email list, just what I went over. The other piece is that you want to be able to create a list of the different ways that you could engage sponsors. So here's some examples of things that I have seen other authors do. One author did a really, really cool thing. They had a company who had these really gorgeous, I call them swag bags. They were more like gift bags. So what the company did is they had their logo on the front of the bag. They actually put the author's logo on the back of the bag. And when people were buying the books from this event, they went inside the sponsor's bag, and inside the bag was a discount for the sponsor's services. Another really cool thing is one of the authors was holding a very small conference for writers, and she had a lanyard sponsor. And the lanyard sponsor paid for the name tags, the printing, all the stuff that we don't like to do because I can't stand doing name tags. And they paid for that. And inside the name tag, they gave everybody a gift card. So that author looked like a rock star because everybody was leaving with a gift card that was worth some cash to them. Yeah. So you really want to look at, where are these opportunities that sponsors can add to what you're already doing. We want to start close to home. A lot of times there's a tendency for us as authors to say, hey, we should go to the national office of this insurance company or this bank or this clothing company. And when we think that big, I don't want you to squash your dreams, but I want you to bring that dream close to home, because the easiest yeses are the yeses that exist in your own community. So let's say that Staples or Lululemon or Starbucks, I'm just picking brands that a lot of authors tell me they want to be connected to. If those were your dream sponsors, don't go to the national office. Go to the Lululemon or the Starbucks or the Staples right in your own community and build that relationship with them. They'll probably be interested in having a conversation with you about where there is some points of synergy or collaboration. And then if you want to expand that partnership, let that Staples or Starbucks or Lululemon representative take you to the next level, regional or national. So this is why at the beginning I said that the relationships are key. They are what help you expand your sponsorship. So I wanted to just give you a couple of other tips before we wrap up here. Some other ways that authors are using sponsorship and where they're generating revenue to make their book a bigger success is to to have things sponsored like book tours. And book tours don't need to be a 7-week tour like mine was. I've got a couple of authors right now that are actually planning what they're calling mini tours. So every time they travel for something, whether it's personal, business, or related to their book, they go and do a series of events in that community, and it's sort of like a mini tour, and they're getting sponsorship from those communities that they're visiting. I'm also seeing a lot of authors start to look at taking their message into video formats. And so like online courses, for example. So they're working with sponsors to cover the cost of online courses. So this is a little bit of information to get you excited about sponsorship. And by all means, visit us at raiseadream.com. Come and learn more about raiseadream.com.
So that was great information. Jen, what were some of your favorite takeaways on that? Oh, I think you're muted, Jen.
Here we go. I was muted for a minute. I think, the biggest takeaway for me, I've thought about sponsorships. I've heard of people doing sponsorships, like they have the hotel or the food or the beverages or something covered at their event. Or, I know a hotel is a really big expense, not just to stay the night there, but even just to have an event at a hotel. So I think kind of open my horizons to what can be sponsored. It doesn't necessarily just have to be cash, right? That
exactly
in kind or combination, like you said, a discount. I thought that was great that you talked about that wrap, because I've wrapped cars before in the past, and it is very expensive. We had 4 cars that were wrapped, and that was very expensive. So to think, we could have asked for a sponsorship and had their logo on it too, and it would have been less money, right? So, those kind of things.
Exactly.
Opening your mind to what do you need, and can it be a sponsor instead of having to pay for it.
I think one of my biggest takeaways was the when you said the $3,500 for the sponsorship for the book signing. I think that ties in perfect with the author. So the author is trying to get their book published, needs money to get the publisher like us to get on board and have that marketing campaign that they could say, hey, part of it is you'll be sponsoring my book signing. This is how many people I'm anticipating. This is where it's going to be. It's like Jen said, this is going to be at the hotel that's also going to be sponsoring it, that you open your eyes to that. And then that money, you can have multiple sponsors there for the book signing. And the next thing you know, you've got all your publishing paid for by doing that.
Exactly. And that's where I love this conversation, because it's about helping authors create a business around their book.
Mm-hmm.
So much work and energy, so much of our life goes into writing the book. And I just love it when I see authors looking for all the ways that they can wrap things around their book, like tours and products and speaking and sponsorship, because it makes sure that book and its message gets out to more people in the world. It creates, a sense of a movement, even if your goal is not to create a movement. When you have companies backing you like that, they are then able to communicate your book and your book's message to their audiences. So there are so many benefits.
Yeah, I think it's great. When I did my book signings, I've taught people to make sure you have door prizes, have things, and I've always gotten those donated, but I never once thought, what about them not only donating, but sponsoring and paying for the drinks or paying for that chocolate fountain I wanted, having a chocolate company come and do it. I didn't think further. And I love how you talk about that synergy, like who are those companies that could be synergistic to you?
Exactly. One of the authors that we're working with did something really cool. She is having swag bags, for lack of a better word, that'll be given out at her different book events. So some mini tours and her book signings. And she started thinking, wow, like a lot of time goes into stuffing these bags and thanking sponsors. And there is a bit of a cost to me as an author to put logos on banners and things like that. Even though the banners being sponsored, there's still the graphic design. She hadn't got the graphic design sponsored, but you can get that sponsored. And so what she did is she actually charged a nominal fee. I think it was $500 for sponsors to actually put an item in the bag. So she generated almost $6,000 from charging a nominal fee. And again, it was just what you've said, Jen, just thinking bigger. And all of them, that she asked said yes. Nobody had an issue with that, because she was able to say, here's all the value that I'll bring you. I'll mention you in 2 of my emails. I will do 40 posts on social media over a 4-month period. I will give you the opportunity to be showcased in front of my audience with a 3-minute video that we'll put on our website. So she did all these things that cost her minimal to nothing, but that brought huge value to that sponsor. And of course, the $500 was, wow, that's it? Of course, for a heck yes. So I'm sure she's going to be increasing that on her next book.
Yeah, I think that was another big aha moment for me when you were presenting the information, is a lot of times we think, oh, I can't ask them, like, oh, they might not have the money. Why would they give me money? When they already have the budget. It is their marketing budget. Like you said, $500, that's it. Like that's what they're thinking, because they have this budget that they need to spend, and why not with you?
Exactly. Because let's say you had a book related event where 50 people are showing up and it's the perfect audience. Let's say that you've written a cookbook or you have written a personal development book for moms, and there's 50 moms in that audience, and you find a sponsor. Maybe it's a local grocery store or a local hair salon. Think local, because those parents are going to shop local. And, you know, these are potential clients. They just have the opportunity to get in front of 50 perfect audience members. If they were to go and purchase that through another way, such as media or Facebook ads, it would cost a lot more than $500 to get in front of 50 people in those multiple ways that the author is going to promote them. So there's huge value for the sponsor. So if you can think along that lines, instead of why would they sponsor me and are they going to feel like they got enough value, the flip of that is, wow, look at how much value I'm bringing that sponsor and how easy I'm making it for that sponsor to have some of their needs met.
I think one of the keys is you're reaching that demographic, right? You're honing in and doing that niche demographic for them, and they're getting those people captured right there. The other thing I love too, which kind of ties into that, was I never thought of, oh my gosh, you're going to pay me to speak. So let's say I'm writing some book that that has to do with medical or financial, and then you get the financial institution to sponsor your speaking gigs, your travel for your speaking gigs for you to speak. Because so many speakers are like, well, I'm not trying to get a paid speaking gig, when you could, instead of doing it one at a time, then you've got someone who's going to underwrite it, and then you just go and book all these events, and you've got the underwriting for it, as well as maybe some of that money that ties in when you're planning your book. You say, listen, I'm going to be speaking. You're going to get sponsorship for speaking. You're going to get sponsorship at my book signing. You're going to get placement. Like you say in the videos, I'll give you placement, maybe even in my book somewhere. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Eye-opening.
Absolutely. The list goes on. And, you know, it's a great idea to connect with other authors and have a brainstorming session to see what you come up with, because I have learned that when you speak to people who are not in your industry, so if I'm doing this for myself, for example, my books are in the nonfiction realm, personal and professional development, for example, or my children's books, I would go and talk to authors who are not in my genre and say, here's what my book's about. Who do you think might be a great partner? What kind of businesses do you think might have some synergy or some interest in the audiences I'm in front of? And guaranteed they will come up with names of businesses that you've never thought of, simply because we're too close to it.
Right. Well, I think that wraps it up. Is there any other tips that you can think of to give us that you've covered so much? Is there anything else you can think of?
You know, the one tip is to look at who you know and who you do business with. So a great exercise for a weekend is to walk around your house and your office, even go into your car with a clipboard and write down every product that you use. So when you're walking through the bathroom, what are the hair products I use? What are the makeup? What are the personal hygiene products? When I'm in the kitchen, writing down all those products you love. And if there are some products that you use part of your writing journey. So an example is, we have an author that loves a particular brand of pomegranate juice. He just says, I love this juice. It just makes me feel nourished. And so he's going to be approaching that particular sponsor because this is part of his writing regime. And he also has some music that he writes to. And so these are some of the people that he's going to approach because they're very much a part of his writing journey. You can do the same thing. Do that inventory.
So do your inventory, figure out what your assets are, what you use, and open your mind. And if you're looking to write that book, you're looking for ways to do it, then this is the way to do it right here. Charmaine gave you all the reasons that you don't have to say, I can't do it anymore because I can't afford to hire a great publisher. So now the problem is solved.
Woo. Awesome.
Thanks, Charmaine.
Thank you so much.
Tell us the website one more time.
Website is raiseadream.com.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great day.